He is in there somewhere. Beneath the heavy load, he is in there somewhere. His shoulders are worn, his legs are tired, his body is weak. But in that weak body, there is a person in there somewhere. Many walk by, very few stop. Why do they forget? There is still a human just like them in there somewhere. These, my friends, are the words I wrote 5 minutes after meeting this gentleman 2 weeks ago on the streets of Indonesia. I had just finished my 18th library. I was tired and I was walking, and I saw him. I saw him balance a load that was way too big for his frame. You know how he was walking? He would tilt the load forward and stumble the next few steps and just find the courage to stand back up again. I was deeply moved. We had food together. The result was that wonderful smile that penetrated my heart. You see the whole story play out in that collage. It was the best 80 cents I ever spent. I could never talk like this about an Excel sheet, a line item, or a data point. I could never do that. This person is forever in my life, like hundreds of others who have infused me with the human connection. My talk today is about a framework that any change maker can use to drive change in the world, powered by the human connection. My name is Sultan Akif, and I am the Chief Library Builder. I made that title up, so I guess I can say I'm the best Chief Library Builder, because I'm the only Chief Library Builder that I know of. I go around the world and I build libraries with my own hands and with local volunteers and local organizations, with respect, with compassion, with love. Prior to building libraries and running one of the largest youth empowerment events, I was a management consultant and corporate executive for 17 years. I've worked in most of the buildings here. I've been honored to work and consult and be a part of 120 organizations around the world in big consulting projects, mission-critical engagements, delivered over $1 billion of consulting revenue. And I'll tell you something. There was one, it gave me a front row seat to something incredible. I was able to see when giant organizational transformation projects fail. They fail often because the human connection is lost in the steering committee meetings, in the whole way we have decided to make decisions now, when the end users, when the people who are actually receiving the benefits of that transformation are not consulted or brought to the table, the result is poor decisions. Who is prepared for a steering committee meeting before? Big PowerPoint, yes. So we all know how that works. There's a data that comes in. There's a whole process around it. You know, we go out, we mine the data from the information, from the organization. And then there's this magical tool with spiritual powers in the corporate world that has the ability to solve all of the project's problems. It's called Microsoft PowerPoint. So, for whoever has prepared executive presentations, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In comes data, out filters reality, out goes the presentation. Everything looks great, but wait, everything can't look great. There's got to be at least 1 or 2 issues. So let's point the conversation to where the issues need to be. We're not talking manipulation or anything. We're just talking reality of how a lot of information gets published for driving decisions that happen. And as I go around and I did a lot of due diligence on these engagements, you know, you would find statements like, we have improved growth we have grown by 200%. And I was kind of like, double click, you lost money the first year, so now you're losing more money? How's that a good thing? You know, our defect rates have dropped dramatically. You were first unexecutable, now you're just horrible. So, you know, how's that information processing? As I changed my own life and I structured it around making a difference, the divide I saw, my friends, between those that are making the decision and whose life these decisions impact was never greater. I've been honored, blessed to travel to 75 countries of this world, and having been part of many projects in their own physical space. I ask the simple question: when the view of the decision maker from the downtown office of a beautiful city is so dramatically different to the view of the child from his or her window, then how can that decision be fully embedded in reality? Assuming that child has a house or even a window. You have a lot of examples of multi-million-dollar projects. I'll quote you one, that in northern Kenya, there was a $22 million project built to provide nutrition by a fisheries plant to a tribe. $22 million later, that plant collects dust because the tribe was nomadic in nature and fish wasn't a part of their diet. It's kind of like a little oops, you know. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to criticize or to talk about systems that are not, you know, ideal or optimized. TEDx is a wonderful platform because it allows us to imagine a new reality. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a framework, a simple 4-point framework. Empowered, I'll bring it to life for you with real stories that at the end of the day, any change maker who has a desire to make a difference can act on and can drive that change. The first point of that framework, the first model, is small and agile versus big and bureaucratic. So bureaucracy and long decision-making processes are, I call them, there's nothing that drains life out of a change maker than long series of endless meetings that you actually don't see the light of what you're trying to impact. I am a fan, and my idea is focused on small and agile execution, finding what is it that you love, and going out into the space, going out into the world, projecting that and doing something about it. I will share with you why I have those pictures up. 4 weeks ago, I was honored to be in perhaps one of the most remote places in the world. It's the remote archipelago of Raja Ampat in Indonesia. It takes you 2 days within the country to get to. You get into boats, you get into first flights, then you get into little boats, and I arrived on an archipelago of islands, and I met Jonas. Jonas was a CFO in Switzerland, member of the national volleyball team, decided to change his life, went to this wonderful oasis 5 years ago, learned the local language of Indonesians, and not just that, learned the tribal language, and basically set up that one-room hut, school, his home that you see. And this is the part that was really moving for me. When he first got there, he used his globe to inform kids like Eddie and Melando that are now articulate, some of the best children that I've seen in terms of manners and knowledge and speaking multiple languages. He used his globe to inform them that they're not going to fall off the face of the earth if they keep sailing. This is 2015, 2014 that we're referring to. How many people can say they are the quote-unquote educational system on an island? I mean, Jonas is that. You know, I saw the love, I saw the compassion, I saw the connection, and it was beautiful. So for all the change makers out there, my first point is this. A lot of us get stumbled on, how do I even start? Where do I even go? You start by small actions. You don't have to quit your job and go to the end of the earth. But at the end of the day, you can start with a small and agile process, and you'll find the empowerment in there. My second message is to validate data with human connection. So, just for the record, I think data is critical. It's essential. I mean, we don't want to wing things. We want data to be there. I mean, I built an entire career around it. But there is a step that often gets missed. And that step is to validate the data with the human connection, to surface up the stories of the people that we're actually trying to impact, to put faces on the line items. I will share with you the story of Aziza. I was on a soul-searching trip heading out to the Sahara Desert. I was looking for serenity. I said, you know what, let's go to Spain, let's go to Morocco. And in the busy streets of Marrakesh, Morocco, I saw street children. Aziza was one of them. She's very excited, very energetic, but she clearly needed some help. So, by show of hands, who likes ice cream? I like it a lot, so there we go. Well, I did what it made sense, and I said, okay, I'll get you an ice cream. So I got her an ice cream, and then something really strange happened. Really strange. I did not expect that. If you just zoom in on her face, and you see that expression, she wasn't all smiles. I've got two lovely daughters. I know what ice cream does to people. Just jump up and down, and she didn't smile. She just stared down at me, and she says, and I asked myself, what kind of a child doesn't like ice cream? Who doesn't like ice cream? And at the end of the day, I got my answer, a hungry one. So when we got bread for Aziza, she jumped up and down. She jumped up and down. She, licked the bag, and she just ate on the side of that street. And it's etched in my memory forever. And that's what I mean by validating data with the human connection. I was 6 days inside the Himalayas on another soul-searching trip. And I just built my first library, and I'd looked at all the data around literacy and education and all of that. And nothing brought it home for me than Shivani and her friends. As I hiked up deep into the Himalayas, I saw a scene that moved me. I saw Shivani sitting in front of her house in broad daylight with torn books, because number one, her house did not have electricity, so she had to study in the daylight. And number two, she loved studying, so she wanted to be there. I said, you know what? My purpose has been calling me. I'm here on this planet to build spaces so children have the environment to dream and the books to dream. My third point is to work with your own hands and to truly connect with people. So each library that we build, I work with my own hands. These are not just images, these are stories, these are people. I could go on and on about them. I will tell you the one on the left-hand side, which is of Rosa, deep in the Amazon jungle. We were building a library. It was a remote build, and she kept on coming with her granddaughter. And, concerned about her, I said, you know what? Just be careful, and paint is around and stuff. And she said, it's because of my granddaughter that I need to support you. Her husband, Bartolomeo, worked with us for 2 days in a row wearing the same shirt. And we haul in everything sometimes, but I didn't bring a piece of cloth because we don't really sometimes think about such things as a resource. Well, it's not there in the Amazon. So when we needed a piece of cloth, you know what he did? He took his shirt off and said, here you go. And he said something after that I'll always remember. He said, the river is close by, I can always wash it. So 2 days of wearing the same shirt, this wasn't something he was throwing away. So when you work with your hands, you empower people. You do not replicate a colonial bias. You do not ride into an environment to save the day. You exist as humans with other people, and that is what unleashes their potential. They go to the end of the earth to do the project with you because they see your passion. They see what you're all about. I'm building in a First Nations community 7 days from now. Different people have stepped forward. A major in our forces grew up close to that area. Just this morning, right before my TED Talk, she reached out and told what that area meant to her. She connected. She wants to help. My point is this. When people see that you lead with respect as a change maker, the conversation changes. You go from, quote unquote, I'm here to govern you, or manage the project, to I'm here just to be with you. My last point, I'll tell you the story, then I'll tell you the point. It's the story I share at the launch of every library. It's the story of the boy in the library. A boy from a good family fell on some hard times. He had to drop out of school. He could not afford the uniform. He could not afford any of the amenities. He could not even afford shoes. He learned physics by knowing that shoes wear off in uneven ways. The holes appear on one side first. And he learned the subtle art of cutting cardboard so you could put it into it. So you know what? You get a few extra days from that shoe, and you keep replacing the cardboard, and your shoe works for another year. Life was really tough. All he had was books. He got into a good university, but life was tough. He had to cycle an hour and a half each way to make ends meet, and he only had $50 in the month to spend, 30 of it went to the dorm. And I look in the eyes of these kids when I share this story. $20 is all he had, which wasn't enough to eat. But in the middle of that commute was a little bookshop with books, with colorful books that inspired him to dream. He could look at those pictures, those mountains, those people, those civilizations, and just dream, surrounded by limitations, just dream of having a shot at being at those places. And I look in the eyes of those kids just as I look in your eyes, and through this platform, I look in the eyes of every change maker out there to believe in yourself. To believe in yourself, to ground your social movements in purpose that's deep and personal, because I get down to the level of these kids when I talk to them, and I say to them, when you're doubting yourself, remember the story I've told you? Every single dream of that boy came true. He went to all around the world, and when you are doubting yourself, just remember, the boy who could not afford a single book is now the man who's built your library. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is personal, as every social project should be. If we are sitting behind Excel sheets, if we are looking at data, I talked to a few people in this hall. We talked about respect. They talked about human connection. They talked about positivity. They talked about the climate. Just right now, today, when we ground our actions, our purpose on this planet, our time left here, when we ground it on something we deeply care about, that is when we unleash the human potential, not just of those that we are impacting, but our very own. So at the end of the day, I just want to leave you with something that comes from my heart. This is a framework that any change maker can adopt, can go out there, can bring joy and happiness in their life and in the lives of others. And just to silence that voice of doubt, there is a chant we do at the launch of every library. I want you to join me in it. It's an individual promise that we make to ourselves, and every change maker out there, whoever hears this, just makes it to themselves. So please repeat after me. I am strong. We're stronger than that. I am strong. I am smart. And I have the power to change the world. So what are we waiting for? Thank you.